Howdy folks, and welcome back to Constantine's adventure. Last we left her, Kodlak had been murdered by the Silver Hand, and she and Vilkas were now about to set off to rid the world of the group. The rest Vilkas argued for did not temper the fire within Constantine. She wished they had left immediately after the Whiterun raid, but he had noticed and stated that they would have been tired when they reached it anyways. They would have had to stop. After looking at their map, they decided it was best to take a carriage from Whiterun to Dawnstar. They would then hike the rest of the way up to the fort.
Climb and back and we'll be off. Oh, there once was a hero named Ragnar the Red who came riding to Whiterun from old Rorikstead.
This was Constantine's first time this far into the snowy north. Solitude did have snow, of course, but nothing like this. Her armor did an okay job of keeping her warm, but the chill of the air still bit. The worst was the wind, though. When it blew, it felt like small little daggers cutting into her face. Ulf seemed pretty happy, though. With all that fur, this weather probably felt amazing to him. As they climbed the mountain, they came across an interesting sight. It seemed there was a dead high elf at the base of a statue. Looking at the half-buried tent, it would seem he had been there for a while, or the snow had picked up rather quickly. Reading over his journal, it appeared he had been attempting to enter the College of Winterhold, but failed to pass a test. So that's good to know at least, that if she wants to enter, there will be a test. He seemed to believe that becoming to this statue of Sirabane, the apprentice's god, he would gain the god's favor somehow. He seemed to be getting more and more desperate as the journal went on, and in the end, he killed himself, believing Sirabane would take him as an apprentice. The statue was nothing special, when she touched it at least. She did feel herself warm up a little bit, but if Sirabane was looking for a new apprentice, it wasn't going to be her. She and Vilkas would continue on to the fort. There it was, the Silverhand's main base of operations, and they were probably all inside, smug about their alleged victory. So much so, they only left 2 guards out. They have no idea what's coming for them. The firing she picked off the dead dragon priest is extra nice because not only is she dealing some extra damage, but the leftover fire is burning up the bodies as well. She would make sure as few of them as possible are recognizable for what they did to Kodlak. The charred bodies of the guards were nice, but it was just a start. Inside was exactly what she imagined. Dank, stuffy, and ruined. A group like this would act no better than bandits. It was time to clean up this mess. Constantine chose to try to be as quiet as possible and let as few of them know what was happening before it was too late. She also intended to loot absolutely everything of value. The first 2 went down relatively easily. She's not totally sure why the second guy stopped at the top of the stairs, but it was most likely the paralysis from her bow, or he was just overcome with fear. In either case, she was the last thing he saw. As she continues to loot, another hand member catches wind of them. He was a joke and easy to kill, and watching them fall in flames with one arrow soothes Constantine's soul every time. As they continue through the castle, they come across a large room with more Silverhand members. Constantine gets right to work, asking absolutely no questions and delighting in the flames.
Now you're mine. You won't get the best
She's not particularly sure what Vilkas did during that fight. He sort of sat there and just took the hits. She wonders if it was due to his two-handed weapon. He didn't necessarily have the room to swing properly, but in any case, he should have at least moved out of her way. She picked her way into one of the many bedrooms in the fortress, waking up one of the members who was clearly not on duty. Constantine felt no sorrow for the man. Be a part of the Silver Hand, die like the rest of them, duty or not. At this point, it had been smaller skirmishes, but finally, Constantine, Vilkas, and Ulf came across a much larger area with more members. It was a slaughter.
Watch it there, sister.
Vilkas was a great forward shield, as Constantine was able to pick the enemies off from a distance. Now, at one point, Vilkas did get in the way of her shot, and if she's being honest, it was totally his fault. The arrow had already left the bow, at least according to how she tells the story. In the room, it seemed that there was a deeper part to the fortress, so the three entered and waited to see if their commotion had gained anyone's attention. It, surprisingly, didn't. To be fair, though, it does seem they came out in a storeroom, but she would have assumed that with the death of, half the fortress at this point, someone would have noticed that someone else was missing. Oh well. Then again, she had no idea how this group operated. They could all be mercenaries just working under the same banner with no allegiance to each other.
We're not alone.
This orc was not intelligent. He gets shot, placed on fire, and does nothing. On the bright side, it does mean her sneaking ability is getting much better, and so far that enemies are having a hard time tracking her even when they're shot. Upon opening the next door, though, this is when things got a little strange and something Constantine wasn't expecting. They came out into a boiler-like area, but connected to it was an ice cave. It seemed this fortress had a secret cave attached to it. No matter, though, the three had a job to do, and no ice cave was going to stop them from their righteous revenge.
Is someone there?
The fight spilled to a large cavernous area. She could tell Vilkas was starting to feel a bit of pain, as he wasn't as quick to rush in as he had been. Of course, that being the case, though, it really made no difference. They would make absolute mincemeat of these bastards. There was a caged werewolf, and Constantine did have the thought to release it, but the fact that it couldn't transform him back into a human meant that it had lost its will to the beast. If she let it out, it would simply attack them, and having actually felt the power of the wolf herself, that would not be an easy fight. She hated that she had to leave the beast caged, but for their own safety, it made sense, especially in such close quarters. The group appeared above a fireplace relaxation area, and this is where Constantine got to really shine with her sneak skills. It wasn't as clean as she'd hoped, but killing one of the members before they even recognized what was happening, oh, what a beautiful thing for her. They didn't deserve to live. They didn't even deserve to fight back. So being able to kill him in their chair, she loved that. In this room, they finally came back to a door that was hopefully going to lead them back to the main fortress area, and not only the rest of the group, but hopefully the fragments of Wuthrad, which is part of why they were here, although Constantine really was here for the revenge portion. Finally, they came across what was most likely the main meeting area for the members, and now it was time to fully wipe out the Silver Hand for what they did to Kodlak.
Found you.
With the death of the leader in the fortress, Vilcus and Constantine were sure that they had done it. They wiped out the group, and while their deaths would not bring Kodlak back, the metallic taste of blood on the air was enough to satiate Constantine's bloodlust. They did also grab the fragments of Wuthrad, of course, and with their mission complete, there was just no time to rest. Kodlak's funeral was soon, and they needed to make sure they were back on time. Constantine looted what she could, but the fortress did have a grindstone and workstation. It would only take her a minute. She knew where the armor needed repairs and where to bolster it, so she quickly improved her armor and weapons. Vilcus refused her assistance in bettering his gear, saying Yorlin should work on his stuff. Fair enough, he did make it, and she's nowhere near his skill yet. With the fortress cleaned out of the Silverhand scum, it was time to leave and get back to Whiterun. Upon exiting, the bite of the cold wind was not unpleasant. She had worked up a sweat inside, and it was nice to be back in the fresh air, even if it did feel like ice spikes were puncturing her lungs. As it got closer to Dawnstar to take the carriage back, Constantine noticed blue shimmers coming from an altar. Instinctively, she pulled out her bow to get ready to attack. She wasn't sure what she was about to shoot, but as her vision cleared up a little bit, she saw that they were skeleton ghosts. Her understanding is that they were ghosts that took on the form of a skeleton, not that someone had resurrected a skeleton, killed it, and now that skeleton had a ghost, as that wouldn't really make too much sense to her, but she also hasn't dabbled too much in necromancy yet. Another issue that became very noticeable was her arrows were doing hardly any damage. She changed tactics and switched to her sword. She also practiced a little bit of magic on them, but it also appeared to not do anything. Thankfully, the sword was able to work, most likely in part due to it being enchanted, but again, without fully knowing how these ghosts came to be, she was just glad she was able to dispatch them. As the fight continued, a thing joined the fight, clearly not a part of the ghosts, and very willing and wanting to kill Constantine. It was she had no idea, dragon-headed gargoyle thing. It was most likely from the Plains of Oblivion. but which one she was unsure of. It had the head of what she thought might have been a dragon. She remembered seeing it in some of her books as a kid, but dragons haven't been around for ever. It also spoke, making her think it had some level of intelligence, but it was bipedal and it had wings. She had no idea what this was. She gritted her teeth as she put arrow after arrow into it. She had just cleared a fortress of Silver Hand members, and she was not going to let some lesser Dremora take her out. Finally, panting, out of breath, and bloody, everything was dead. Or at least not moving anymore. She went over to take a look at the big thing that attacked her. It seemed to have hardened on death, turning into a statue. It did have some interesting loot, and she was able to pry some scales off, as well as take a few bones that were showing. She wasn't sure if she could use them, but imagined they might be useful in smithing something later down the line. She heads towards the altar and sees that it was an altar of Dibella. Why the undead were guarding it, she's not totally sure. Dibella has nothing to do with the undead. Unless maybe they were the souls of those who died with unrequited love in their hearts? I don't know, bit of a stretch. It was finally time for her to get back to Dawnstar and take the carriage to Whiterun. Except, of course, she wasn't that lucky. It seems the north in Skyrim has many more dangers than the south in terms of on-the-road issues, as she came across a ruin that was being guarded by Draugr on horses. This is something she has never seen before in her life. She didn't even know horses could become undead like that, and that Draugr were even capable of riding them. The fight went quickly enough. They were pretty weak Draugr, but the fact that they simply existed were enough for Constantine to be taken aback. With nothing found in the ruin, the group finally makes it back to Dawnstar with no further issues as the sun goes down, and they took the carriage back to Whiterun.
Climbing back and we'll be off. Little snow never stopped me. Don't worry.
Having arrived back in Whiterun, it was time to head back to Jorrvaskr. Constantine told Vilkas to go on ahead without her, as she needed to deposit some things that needed to be brought back to the museum. He stated he was going to wait for her, and she quickly put everything she needed to in the box ready to be shipped. Of course, only after picking up the things that Ulf was carrying for her, because he is such a good boy. They made their way back into Whiterun, and once inside the gates, Vilkas let Constantine know that Kodlak's funeral was most likely prepped and ready to begin. It felt weird to have a funeral so late in the night, but maybe it's just part of how the companions operated. Once the funeral is ready, you just sort of need to have it. And that's exactly where Constantine heads, the Skyforge, to pay her last respects to Kodlak, as well with the rest of the companions.
Before the ancient flame,
We grieve.
At this loss,
We weep.
for the fallen,
We shout. And for ourselves, we take our
take
leave.
our leave. His spirit is departed. Members of the Circle, let us withdraw to the Underforge to grieve our last together.
Do you have the fragments of Wuthrad still? I'll need to prepare them for mounting again. Careful with those. Don't want even more fragments, do we? Of course, I have a small favor to ask of you. There's another piece that Kodlak always kept close to himself. Would you go to his chambers and bring it back for me? I'm not sure I'm the best one to go through his things. Thank you. I'll be here.
It was a nice funeral, quick and succinct. She knows funerals are for the living, and yet there is a part of her that still believes it should be for the dead. If the dead would not want something, then that should be accepted. In this case, Kodlak most likely would not have wanted anything major and fancy. Thankfully, this was neither major nor fancy. She respected the old man, though she didn't get to know him very long. She does do as Yorland requested, and she goes to grab the last fragment of Wuthrad for him. She grabs the fragment as requested, as well as a few other things he had in his dresser. She also chose to grab his journal, unsure if she should actually read it or not. She does finally decide to look into it, and what she found was just fascinating. Kodlak had been wanting to find a way to get rid of the beast blood for a while. This she knew. What she didn't know, though, was that he at some point saw her in his dreams. He believed in his dreams she was going to be the one to help save him from the blood, and all of this had occurred before she had even stepped in Jorvaskr. Constantine is not one to believe in coincidence or prophecy, but she can't help but feel a little weird and guilty, as if she failed him already before she even knew him. He was dead now. There was no way she'd be able to help him remove the beast blood. She left Jorvaskr and found Yorland taking a quick walk around the dead tree. She handed him the fragment, and he let her know that the rest of the circle was in the Underforge, and that she should honestly go and join them.
I think they're waiting for you.
She did as instructed, and when she entered, Farkas, Vilkas, and Ayla were debating and bickering about what to do. The decision was made that while they had all different opinions on the beast blood, they would still try to see if there was a way posthumously to rid his soul of the beast, which Constantine admittedly didn't even know that was a possibility.
But all that was taken from him.
And you avenged him.
Kodlak did not care for vengeance.
No, Farkas, he didn't. And that's not what this is about. We should be honoring Kodlak, no matter our own thoughts on the blood.
You're right. It's what he wanted, and he deserved to have it.
Kodlak used to speak of a way to cleanse his soul, even in death. You know the legends of the tomb of Ysgramor.
There, the souls of the Harbingers will heed the call of Northern Steel. We can't even enter the tomb without.
So the plan was to head to
Ysgramor's
tomb,
it has been for 1,000
but
years.
as Ayla points out, there's no way to enter.
And the elves once ruled Skyrim. Just because something is, doesn't mean it must be. The blade is a weapon, a tool. Tools are meant to be broken and repaired.
Is that... Did you repair the blade?
This is the first time I've had all the pieces, thanks to our shield sister here. The flames of Hero can reforge the shattered. The flames of Kodlak shall fuel the rebirth of Wuthrad, and now it will take you to meet him once more. As the one who bore the fragments, I think you should be the one to carry Wuthrad into battle. The rest of you, prepare to journey to the tomb of Ysgramor, for Kodlak.
She was impressed Yorland was able to repair the blade so quickly, but she's also pretty sure he had been thinking about this day for years. She wasn't so sure about her holding on to Wuthrad, though, but she was also never going to say no to such a cool blade. According to her map, the tomb of Ysgramor was in the north again. Joy. But it did seem like it was relatively close to Winterhold. She had heard about this city in her travels as they were the home to the College of Winterhold. She was curious if she'd be able to join them, as she'd most likely be able to learn a lot more about magic than she would on her own. At the same time, she also wanted to make it to Dawnstar to finally figure out what's going on with that strange museum. But she also still had that weird talking gear thing in her backpack, and she was still actively on the hunt to try to find the Dark Brotherhood. Okay, she needed to focus. First was maybe, hopefully, helping Kodlak.
To go.
She exited the city and ran towards the carriage driver to take her to Winterhold. She did think about maybe walking, but she felt like they were on a bit of a time crunch and wanted to get to the tomb as quickly as possible.
You ever met one of them cats? 'Cause
She arrived in Winterhold just as the wind started to pick up. Oh my lord, what she wouldn't do for a warm bed right now. It seemed that the tomb was going to be on the ice fields, which in and of itself is incredibly perilous. She marks another waygate on her map. No idea what to do with them just yet, but, you know, whatever. As she looks up, she sees the splendor of the college. It's on its own pillar of rock and seems almost unobtainable, and yet she desperately wants to join. What sort of arcane knowledge is found there? She's already got an incredible grasp on alteration magic, still has more to learn, but she's understanding it, and this is mostly thanks to her use of dragon skin and Octa's recital. But there are so many schools of magic to learn from, conjuration specifically. She's wondering if there's a spell or if she can work on a spell that lets her teleport between cities, allowing her to have more control of where and when she needs to go places and not have to rely so much on carriages. She comes across a strange artifact, not really sure what it is, but it looks like it fell off an East Empire ship. It's an interesting relic, and, well, she takes it. Not sure if Ariane can place it in the museum or not, but better for them to have it than someone else, of course. After dealing with a few wolves, she finds a strange waystone-like rock pillar. When she touches it, she feels there is some level of power within it, but she currently just has no way to access it. She marks it on her map for a later date to see if she can extract its power later. Constantine finally arrives at Ysgramor's tomb. It seems pretty unassuming from the outside, and that's most likely to stop potential tomb raiders.
This is the resting place of Ysgramor and his most trusted generals. You should be cautious. Kodlak was right. I let vengeance rule my heart. I regret nothing of what we did at Driftshade, but I can't go any further with my mind fogged or my heart grieved. Return Wuthra to Ysgramor. It should open the way.
So it seems Vilkas is just not going to be joining because his heart was full of rage and vengeance. Which is strange because so was hers, but yet here she is. Look, she won't judge him too harshly though. She can understand his thought process. She does place Wuthrat in the hands of Ysgramor's statue, and the back opens into a large room. While searching this original room though, she comes across a Daedric axe of all things. How and why it's even here of all places, she's totally unsure, but she is not going to be leaving it lying around. Originally, she thought about actually using it, but wants to donate it to the museum instead.
For Kodlak!
A few skiers isn't too difficult to deal with. She's not actually entirely sure what to expect. Possibly Draugr protecting the resting place of Ysgramor? Oh, no. It's ghosts. It's always ghosts. get to Kodlak, it looks like they're going to have to go through wave after wave of ghosts. Constantine noticed immediately, though, that unlike all the other ghosts, these don't turn into ghostly essence. They simply cease to exist. It's an interesting phenomenon that she wants to look into more. Of course, when they aren't actually trying to kill her.
Thought I heard something.
There was a very clear difference in strength between some of the ghosts. If she could just inspect the different coffins, she would be incredibly interested to see if there was a correlation between strength and time of death. Although a quick scan shows no identifying information as to who's buried in any one of these sarcophagi. They come, yet again, to another major chamber, this one producing several ghosts, all of which must be taken out before they're able to continue. Ayla and Farkas have apparently taken the frontal assault approach, while Constantine stays in the back shooting her arrows. The two are doing a pretty decent job at keeping most of the action on them, which has allowed Constantine to deal with the archers. Constantine also noticed that these ghosts talk, like, a lot. It's as if they're trying to mock the group or intimidate them or something. She's just never seen ghosts talk so much, but it's peculiar. Then again, everything about these ghosts is just a little bit peculiar.
Shield sister. Ever since Dustman's cairn, the big crawly ones have been too much for me. Everyone has his weakness, and this one is mine. I'm not proud, but I will stay back with Vilkas. Give my regards to Ysgramor.
So it seems now Farkas is going to be calling it quits due to the spiders up ahead. It's an interesting fear for a warrior of his caliber to have, but she's not going to knock someone else's fear. When your gut tells you not to go farther, you probably should listen. Admittedly, this is a lesson Constantine should probably learn for herself at some point. Killing the spiders was easy enough, and she had hoped that maybe with their deaths, Farkas would rejoin, but he didn't. Probably he didn't want to look at the bodies. Oh well, now it's just her and Ayla to take on the rest of the crypt. After clearing another spider's nest, the pair break into a second part of the crypt. Although this one has a lot less coffins and more just open graves. This may be where the lower-ranking members were buried. Not that it made any difference, though, as they were once again set on by ghosts. Ayla had done a great job of weakening and keeping the ghosts busy, but she then went down. Constantine was sure the ghosts were about to finish the job, but they immediately turned on her. She now had to quickly take out the ghosts or risk Ayla's life.
You think I'm afraid of you?
Ayla was able to finally get back on her feet and down a quick potion, which allowed her to help finish off the last of the ghosts. For now. After heading through a small tunnel, they come to, by the gods, more ghosts. Constantine is getting incredibly tired of the never-ending crypts and ghosts. She admittedly also has no idea what they're actually looking for, so that does add on to her annoyance a bit. But, annoyed or not, these ghosts want her to join them in everlasting death, and she just has no desire to appease them today.
Come on, let's see you put up a fight. There you go.
Another batch of ghosts down. She's hoping they're nearing the main chamber soon. She hasn't seen any indication that they're getting close to Ysgramor's tomb specifically, and that does have her a little worried. I mean, this was clearly his tomb, but we haven't seen anything yet. Entering a small hallway, and Constantine notices an area that should allow her to pick up some loose artifacts, or at least pieces of them. She quickly grabs a few before they continue. The hope is that, with enough broken pieces, she, or someone else, will be able to make a replica of ancient Nordic items, and then these can be displayed in the museum. Hopefully she can find locations like this in Dwarven ruins to do the same thing.
Huh?
A small lever opens an iron-gated door that, at least on first inspection, appears to lead towards the antechamber. Assuming they can clear out the ghosts, she thinks that wherever they're supposed to go is most likely just within the next room. They, again, just have to clear out these ghosts. Ayla was really hurting bad at this point. She actually collapsed, and Ulf went over to protect her body as she either regained consciousness or just got back to her feet. In the meantime, Constantine now had to deal with 3 very angry ghosts. Ayla seemed to be back on her feet, but was definitely taking a step back, which, for now, was okay. Constantine was able to just stay out of reach of the ghosts by rolling at the last possible second. This also allowed her to get an arrow shot off before having to move. With Ayla relatively safe, Ulf was also able to jump back in and start helping again. And with that final arrow, it appeared all the ghosts were finally gone. Now, just to enter what was hopefully the main chamber and see what they might be able to do for Kodlak. Upon entering, this was clearly the main room, and there was a lit brazier with blue fire and... Is that Kodlak?
Greetings, Shield Sister. Of course, my fellow Harbingers and I have been warming ourselves here, trying to evade Hircine. You see only me because your heart knows only me as the Companion's leader. I'd wager old Vignar could see half a dozen of my predecessors. And I see them all. The ones in Sovngarde, the ones trapped with me in Hircing's realm. And they all see you. You've brought honor to the name of the Companions. We won't soon forget it. Did he now? I can only hope. You still have the witches' heads. Excellent. Throw one of them into the fire. It will release their magic. For me, at least.
He wants Constantine to throw one of the witches' heads into the fire. It can't be this easy.
Huh?
Oh gods, it really was that easy. But now they need to deal with Kodlak's wolf soul, or part of his soul that was the wolf?
You think I'm afraid of you?
That maybe actually worked.
Greetings, Shield Sister. And so slain the beast inside of me. I thank you for this gift. The other Harbingers remain trapped by Hircing. Perhaps from Sovngarde, the heroes of old can join me in their rescue. The harrowing of the hunting grounds. It would be a battle of such triumph. And perhaps someday you'll join us in that battle. But for today, return to your master. Triumph in your victory. And lead the Companions to further glory.
What? No, Kodlak. What?
Did I hear right? Did he say you were to lead the Companions? You've earned the right. Your strength and honor are apparent to all. And it's my honor to be first to address you as Harbinger. Let's go tell the others.
What? Constantine was completely taken aback. She had no desire nor intention of leading the Companions. There were much more qualified individuals. This was a lot to process. Putting that aside, she looked at the flame and realized now was her chance to rid herself of the wolf's.
What was that?
It was helpful, yes, but the dream, the potential loss of control of the beast were too much, and she threw the head into the fire.
Come on, let's see you put up a fight.
With the help of Ayla and Ulf, she was able to slay the wolf part of her, and as it died, she felt that caged animal inside her disappear. She no longer had to constantly feel like she was keeping something locked up. It truly felt like she could breathe out, and this mass of tension and stress was just removed. Constantine continued to loot the crypt, and she found Ysgramor's armor in pristine condition. This was an amazing find, both from a history perspective, but also a museum edition one. These would look great on display and should be shown to everyone in Skyrim, not locked in a dusty crypt. She was a little over-encumbered and had to go to Ulf to open his little pocket dimension to help carry a couple of her things. This is when she learned that Ulf's little dimension is not actually infinite. There is a level where there cannot be more stuff, as she just found out.
You're someone who can get things done. I like that. Eventually. But this is the tomb of Ysgramor. I think I'm just going to commune for a bit. This place is worthy of some time. You go on ahead. I'll see you back there.
Constantine spoke with Ayla about returning, but it seemed like she wanted to stay and commune or meditate. Constantine would see her next time she was in Jorvaskr and started heading for the exit. Her mind was blank as she walked through the now quiet halls of the crypt, not fully knowing what to make of the fact that she was just put into such a high position. This was never something she had envisioned for herself or even fully wanted.
Keep that magic away from me. Not right now. I'm going to look at some of these carvings. I wonder if Ysgramor ever set foot here while he was alive. But you don't have to stay if you don't want to. I'll see you back at the Jorvaskr. Stories to tell the others, eh? If you had told me a few months ago that some outsider I had never heard of would lead the companions, I might have slit your throat. But I've seen what you can do, and heard of the love that Kodlak had for you. The trust. Let's hope you can show that his heart was not deceived. Good luck, my friend.
Vilkas was not helpful about her becoming the new Harbinger, making a wisecracking joke that he would have killed her a few months ago if she made this joke. Okay, great. Farkas and Vilkas must have heard Kodlak's voice boom through the crypt for them to know that she was the new Harbinger. Everything just felt so surreal to her. She made it back to the entrance with no real issues and took back
That
Wuthrad.
means something.
It, thankfully, did not actually close up the tomb, and she thinks Aryan will be able to put this on display in a place of prominence. Farkas had little to say about her new position, and after some inventory management, she left the tomb. She was unsure of what her plan at this point would be. She looked out over the frozen tundra and saw all the tombs marking the landscape. This was a place of adventure. There was still so much to see. She couldn't be the harbinger of the companions. She would talk with the others at a later date and see what might be able to be done. Thankfully, maybe it was just a title. For the most part, Ayla and Vilkas ran the day-to-day. If they ever needed help, she would obviously put down what she was doing and assist, but sitting around Jorvaskr was just not for her. Skyrim still had so much to offer her. For now, though, she just needed to head back to Winterhold and find the carriage driver. As she made her way back, she did get sidetracked by a red glow in the ice. As she got closer, she saw a black door. She touched it, and it asked her a question.
It's the greatest pain.
She did not have the right answer, clearly, and it wouldn't budge. She knew this door, though. From her studies, this was a black door, not just any type. This was like the black door, the entrance to a Dark Brotherhood stronghold. What a rush! She felt so close to finding the Brotherhood, and yet nobody came to the door. Makes sense. Not like you can just go up to an assassin's guild and ask to join. She made it back to the front of Winterhold and found the carriage, but no driver. She did find a quick fight with a bear, though. With the bear dead and the driver's guild members saved, she continued to look around to see if she could actually find the driver. To no luck. Slightly frustrated, she decided to head to the local inn. First, to turn in items for shipping to the museum, but also to catch some shut-eye. She had been up all since last night and had made it through an entire crypt, facing off against not one, but two wolf spirits. And, you know, a whole bunch of ghosts. She could really use the rest. She turned in the items for shipping and marked the important ones for Arian so that he could start thinking about displays for them. She then entered the tavern, which was much more lively than she first assumed. There was a mage arguing with the tavern keeper, and oh, look, she actually found the carriage driver. But at this point, she was dead set on getting some rest.
But the mages I've seen look nice.
This.
We don't get many people.
This is
like
why
you visiting
people have a
Winterhold.
problem with your college.
Usually it's elves.
Come on in. Let me know if you need anything, or take a seat by the fire and I'll send someone over. If there's anything you need, just let me know. Sure thing. It's yours for a day. I'll show you to your room.
She got herself a room and was ready to just fall right on into it and call it quits for the day.
Need a ride?
Waking up the next morning, she wasn't quite sure what to do. Should she stay and go check out the College of Winterhold, or head to Dawnstar and figure out this museum mystery? And with that, this is actually where we're going to leave our grand adventure. The leader of the companions, albeit against her will, and a decision to make. I hope you all enjoyed this entry into Constantine's story. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.